Hey guys, and welcome back. Here we are, man. Middle of another week, man. Time for another instructional video, man. And the second part in my series of eating for weight loss, right? If you guys have seen my first video, you'll know that, man, that thing went really freaking long on me. And I found it necessary to chop this up, right? It looks like this is probably gonna be a 3-part series, right? So if you haven't seen the first part, I encourage you to do so, right? A lot of good information about how to start eating for weight loss in that video. However, this is the second video. We'll be picking up where we left off on the first video. So from the first video, if you've watched that, you'll know that really you need to start with this sense of feeling of what you are eating, right? That's where the MyFitnessPal calorie counting comes into play, right? So you got to figure out what you eat in a normal day, just regular eating, how many calories that is, and then MyFitnessPal and some websites will help you to calculate your TDEE to figure out what you should be eating to lose weight and hit your weight loss goals per week, right? So the first thing is get a handle on what you are eating, figure out what you should be eating, and then figure out how to eat in that deficit, right? So that's what the whole first video is about, right? Essentially, it boils down to simple portion control, right? I did absolutely nothing different. I ate the same exact foods I was eating before. I just ate much less of them so that I can make sure to hit the calorie goal that I was supposed to hit in order to lose 2 pounds a week, which was my goal, right? Which is a 7,000 calorie deficit across a week, 1,000 calories deficit a day, right? And I found that to be simple, but very mind engaging and hard to deal with. So the first stage of hunger, again, I have a video on the stages of weight loss. The first stage, hunger, is always the hardest.
I thought you were trying to lose weight.
Lay off me, I'm starving.
So you're going to encounter that in this first portion control stage, right? As you try to get used to just staying within the calorie deficit you need to maintain to lose weight, which is very difficult. But after you get past that stage, it took me about 2 months, a month to 2 months to get past that stage. I found it necessary to start doing different things, right? So rather than just worry about portion control, I decided that it would probably be best if I started to take out some of the things I knew were bad for me. This is when this video really kicks in, and what I think the next logical step would be is substitutions, right? So I started substituting sugar, right? So just processed sugar, corn syrup, and things like that, I try to take out of the diet, right? No sodas, no beer, went straight to water, right? Only water. And then I also would take things out of my diet. So I started substituting raw sugars and things like that for artificial sweeteners like Splenda, Sweet and Low, things like that, stevia, no calorie sweeteners, essentially trying to save the calories there. And I also took like butter and fats out that I could control, right? So instead of cooking with butter, instead of cooking with just straight up lots and lots of olive oil or something like that, I went to PAM, right? Or any kind of 0 calorie spray that you can use to try and get around the calories that are in butters and olive oils and things like that, which I found to be very beneficial, substituting those things, right? Later, I did more substitutions, right? After I got used to that. But keep in mind, right? We're talking months here, right? It took me months to get used to each small change. And you need to allow that gradual thing to come to pass, right? Where it stops being an issue for you, right? When you first start subbing, you're gonna be like, oh man, I really miss this or I really miss that. After a few months of it though, you're gonna get used to it, right? And that's when you know it's time to make another substitution. The next substitution for me was salt, right? Get rid of salt, get it out of the system completely, right? So I started buying more whole vegetables, and the vegetables I did buy canned, I made sure to buy no salt added canned vegetables if I was gonna buy them canned. I made sure to get rid at this stage of all the TV dinners and things like that, and just completely and wholly get rid of those. I did not get rid of all of the prepared foods. I just got rid of like things I knew would have just tons and tons of sodium in them. Got rid of those. This is also the stage where I largely got rid of bread, right? Bread also has a lot of sodium in it. Not only that, but it's a really refined carbohydrate, simple carbohydrate. At the time, I didn't really know much about simple refined carbohydrates and things like that, but I did get rid of breads for the most part wholesale at this time, right? Again, months and months go by here, right? At this point, I'm like a year into this thing, right? I think I got a pretty good handle on it, right? And I feel like this is the type of time scales you should be giving these changes, right? It's not like, you know, 1 week you make a change and then next week you make the next change. I mean, you can do that, but I don't think from a mental engagement standpoint that that's going to lend well to your cravings, nor do I think it's going to lead down a very healthy path, because when I see people do that, I see a lot of binge eating that comes with it, and you do not want to develop binge eating disorder, right? I promise if you follow these roadmaps, you won't develop binge eating disorder, you won't develop anorexia or bulimia. I did not, and like I always say, I'm not a special dude with special powers. So I feel like this roadmap is really, really healthy. Now, along about this time period, I used to get questions because I was right around this time period is when I lost my first 100 pounds. And people used to ask me, do you feel better? And the answer I had to give was no. I don't really feel better. I'm happy to have lost the weight and movement is better, but my body still felt the same, right? And I wasn't really sure why, because I felt like I had my portion controls, good. My portions were under control. I felt like I had made some good, healthy substitutions with polyunsaturated fats and sugar, refined sugars, and no sodium and things like that. But the body wasn't responding the way that I had thought it should respond, right? And that brings us to our next topic, which is whole foods, right? Unprepared whole foods, not necessarily always organic, but definitely something where you take the process out of what we as a society eat just a ton of, which is our food, right? It's just processed. Now, dude, I am not a person who really would have believed in this, but I had a luxury and a benefit that not a lot of people have, and I want to give that to you guys as well that are watching this, right? I promise if you'll do these things, you too will also feel amazing, and that's not something I just throw around, right? But I had the benefit of working with an individual. I will give you her first name. Her first name was Yvonne, and she had a husband named Rich, and her husband, especially her husband, was a nutritionist, but they both were very into health and fitness and are very into health and fitness, and they invited me along for something called the Whole 30. They took all the guesswork out of it for me, which was amazing because the Whole 30 can be an intimidating diet. Essentially what it is it's a very restrictive diet that you do over a 30-day period of time, hence the Whole 30. And there's a lot of meal prep, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of that. They did all the meal prep and planning, right? I mean, I helped a little bit, right? I chopped some stuff up and I put it in pots and things, but all of it really was them. They did all the planning, they bought all the food. I just paid for my portion of it and did a little bit of the manual labor that went into it. But aside from that, all I did was shove the food in my face for 30 days. And I'm going to tell you, by the end of the first week, I felt absolutely amazing.
Hey, what's up?
Me, I'm up and I feel great.
So I'm going to tell you that part 3 of this is going to be how to make that change once you have your portion control in place, once you've got some of the substitutions and some of the boxed food and all that out of your plate, and you've got that under control and everything is under wraps. How do you make that transition to whole foods, right? How do you make that transition from completely unprocessed foods and into some of the other things that I've done to lose the second 100 pounds? But that's in the next video, and we'll talk more about Yvonne and Rich in that video. And if you guys are watching, man, thank you. I can't thank you enough. But as always, guys, like and subscribe. Leave me some comments, man. Let me know what's going on with you guys. And as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.